Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Paige Frost.
And I'm Ian Steiner. Welcome to Channel 33 News.
We have breaking news this morning as more and more reports are coming in that America could be repeating the fate of ancient Rome. Yes, however scary this may be, it is true. We have several social factors and few economic, political, and military reasons to prove it to you. We will now take it to our live reporter on the scene, Austin Bonacore. Austin?
Thanks, Paige. I'm here on scene of the brutal murder that happened yesterday. Police are still working on who committed this terrible crime, which the victim was stabbed multiple times. We know, in fact, this was not an accident. This crime scene is located on a street known for parties. These parties are known to have so much food and alcohol that makes people sick. This is also an area that there was 3 different houses broken into in the last few months. This just goes to show you the decline in moral values in America going down. Back to you, Paige, to discuss the moral issues in Rome.
Thanks, Austin. Part of the reason that Rome failed was because of the decline of their morals and values. The people that lived in Rome at the time had to be very cautious going out on the streets because of extremely high violence rates. There were many prostitutes in ancient Rome, along with the empires that would waste money on large parties where the feast would make the guests extremely ill. The Romans also enjoyed cruelty and combat. They enjoyed going to the Colosseum where they watched the gladiators fight to the death. The spectators would cheer and curse at the competitors. Many fights were held in a day, and if the ground where they were fighting became too covered in blood, the people would cover it with sand and the fights would continue. What a horrible thought! Now let's get the first check of weather. Ian?
Thanks, Paige. Looks like today is a perfect day for some environmental and public health problems. Many historians or experts in history believe that part of the reason Rome fell is because problems like these. They think that lead poisoning killed many of the wealthy and leaders in Rome. This could be because only the rich could afford the lead pipes to bring water to their homes, and they could use lead utensils to eat and cook with. As you can tell, Rome did not have a plan in place to help their citizens through this. This can be compared to America, as only 5 states have a plan in place to prepare for climate change or public health issues. That could include natural disasters, pollution, or widespread diseases. 28 states have climate change responses, but no public health plan. 17 states and the District of Columbia have no plans in place, so be prepared for the storms of life.
Thanks, Ian. On to our next topic, urban decay. In Rome, if you couldn't afford to live inside of a house or on the top floor of your apartment building, which was the cheapest floor, you were forced to live on the streets. However, as we said earlier, these streets were very dangerous, with lots of criminals lurking nearby. This caused lots of the population to leave Rome, as many of the citizens were very poor and homeless. Unfortunately, we can see the same thing happening very close to home. The city of Detroit, Michigan was known for manufacturing cars. Most of the population of Detroit worked for a car manufacturer until about 1967, when large riots happened in the city after a lot of the manufacturers moved to other cities outside of the U.S. According to the U.S. Census, the population in Detroit in 1950 was about 1.85 million. In 2010, the population in Detroit was only about 714,000. This loss was about 1,136,000 people, around 61% of the population. This also led to an increase in homeless and abandoned buildings in Detroit.
There is a 7.9% of unemployment here in America right now. This has stayed about the same for a while. This is lower than in 2010. However, this rate is still high. This amounts to about 12,088,000 people in the U.S. that are unemployed. This also can be seen in Rome. Farmers who had paid workers could not produce their crops as cheaply as a farm with slaves on it. Many of the farmers who had to pay could not compete with the prices of the slave farms, and they would lose their farms. Lots of these men moved to the cities and tried to find work, but there are not enough jobs for them all. It is estimated that the emperor had to feed over 100,000 people in just Rome.
Our last social topic is the difference between the rise of Christianity in Rome and the decline of Christianity in America. Our country was created with the understanding that we were one nation under God. This is slowly slipping away as we see the number of Christians has declined 12% since 1990. According to CNN, there's a 43% drop in Christian church attendance between the teen and early adult years. This just goes to show how far away our country has fallen from our original values. Back in Rome, they were dealing with the opposite issue. The rise of Christianity could have caused the fall of Rome. As more and more Romans became Christian, less and less of them wanted to fight against invasions. This was because their Christian faith caused them to become pacifists, or people who were against war and fighting. This made the numbers of people in the army go down. The Romans also believed that when good leaders became Christians, they no longer wanted to help lead Rome. They also believed that the money that was used to build churches and monasteries would have been better spent on the empire. Now we go back to Austin for our political report. Austin?
Political corruption was a big issue back in the days of ancient Rome. They did not have a system in place to choose their emperors. They had to hold debates between the emperor, the senate, the army, and the emperor's private guard called Praetorian Guard. Eventually, this method evolved to where just the Praetorian Guard got to choose the emperor, and the new emperor would reward the guard for supporting him. This failed, however, when the army strangled the emperor. This led to the selling of the throne to the highest bidder. Within 100 years, 25 of the 30 emperors in Rome had to leave because they were assassinated. In America, we are not dealing with that many murders, as only 4 of our presidents have been killed. However, we still have some political corruption in our country. While we have a voting system, we do not always follow it. For the people in our country, go out and vote for our president. But we also have electoral college that makes the final votes for our leaders. It has happened 4 different times. Once in 1824, there was a House of Representatives that chose the president. The other 3 times, electoral college voted against the people's choice, those in 1867, and 1888, and 2000.
Thank you, Austin. Now for our economic report. Back in ancient Rome, there was a problem with inflation. After the Romans had stopped gaining land, their gold resource started to go out. As the gold decreased, the amount of gold in coins decreased as well, causing the value of the gold coins to go down. A lot of people stopped using the coins to buy things. Instead, they bartered items. America has also had a problem with inflation. In September of 2012, the inflation rate was 2%. From 1914 until now, the rate was an average of 3.36%. It even went all the way up to 23.7% and all the way down to negative 15.8%.
Here's your last check of military problems in both America and Rome. Be prepared for a good chance of excessive military spending in 2009. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute reported that all of the militaries in the world spent $1.46 trillion in 2008. America spent 42% of that amount, which is $607 billion. That it was 7 times more than the second biggest spender, which was China, at $84.9 billion. The U.S. spent more on its military than the next 14 countries that spent the most combined. This leaves areas that do not get as much money or support from the government. This can also be seen in Rome. They had to pay a great deal of money to keep the borders of Rome protected from barbarian invasions. They spent so much that it left other things like public housing, roadways, with no money. This made the citizens of Rome angry, so they stopped caring about defending Rome. This caused the government to have to hire the unemployed people in the cities or soldiers from other countries, which became not only dangerous, but expensive. This caused the empire to have to raise the taxes of the citizens of Rome, which could have led to the fall of Rome.
Thank you for watching this special edition of Channel 33 News. Let's all become prepared for the downward spiral of our nation, and be ready to step up and change it for the better. Let's not let America repeat the fate of ancient Rome. This is Paige Frost with Channel 33 News saying good afternoon, and let's change America!